Okay, our second video today is about the Northwest Ordinance. On the map there, you can see what was the Northwest Territory, mainly 5 states that are shaded in there. This is going to be one of the early government documents under the new country that was established by the Declaration of Independence. So first, this is no longer a topic that we're going to spend much time on. It used to be part of the Ohio Social Studies standards for 10th grade U.S. history. It is no longer, but just to touch on it because it helps to understand the Northwest Ordinance. The Articles of Confederation, this was the initial plan of the government. So again, like in the last video, the Declaration of Independence, it declares independence from Great Britain. It gives some ideals or principles that our country wants to follow, but it does not set up any type of structure for government. Our structure today is the U.S. Constitution, but that was not around initially. The first plan was the Articles of Confederation. It didn't last because it was a very weak document. The colonists, that became a new country under the Declaration, but they didn't like that powerful king, and they were very worried about creating a new national government that would be similar to a king. So almost all the power went to the original 13 states. The national government had very minimal power. There was no 3 branches of government. It was just a legislative branch. There was a president elected from that group, from that Congress, but had minimal power. It wasn't a 4-year term or anything like we would have today. They couldn't tax, really couldn't defend, the country. If there was problems within the country, they couldn't really do too much to solve any of those. So it wasn't going to last. And that's pretty much what you need to know about the Articles of Confederation. First plan, weak, didn't last. But one positive from it was the Northwest Ordinance. And the Northwest Ordinance governed the Northwest Territory. I'll move my picture over here so you can see that map. But it was established in 1787 after the end of the Revolutionary War. The Northwest Ordinance was the document that was just created to govern this territory. And it created the states, which is on the first map of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Now, the picture you see here looks different. It's the same territory, but it's a different drawing. This was a plan by Thomas Jefferson. Not anything you need to know for a test, but just kind of an interesting fact I wanted to point out. So he initially had a plan. There were 10 different states it was going to be divided up into, and instead of the 5. But as you can see here, Girard, we'd be right around here. And instead of Ohio, because there is no Ohio in this map, we would have been part of Washington State. And that Washington State, before the current Washington State would have been created, would have included the Youngstown, Warren area. Cleveland would have been in that. Maybe a little bit some of the suburbs of Columbus, but Toledo, Dayton, Cincinnati, parts of Columbus area would not be. They would be in different states here. So just kind of some interesting fact that maybe you didn't know before. All right, but so what the Northwest Ordinance did, why it's important to know. The Northwest Ordinance, it governed those initial states and, before territories before they became a state, but it also set up some more principles that will be part of the entire United States. So initially it was just governing that small territory of the U.S., but these ideas then are going to spread, and that's why we still learn about the Northwest Ordinance. And some of these ideas weren't brand new to the U.S. It wasn't like we were the first people to figure these out. They may have been in European countries before, but this is the first American document that includes them, and now would be part of our life still this day. So public education is one. You're, taking a class through a public school. It's standard, across our country that public education is guaranteed to people. That was not always the case, but in the Northwest Ordinance, it was encouraged that every single township that was created would have a spot for a public school. So that's going to spread throughout the country then after this document. That second bullet point, you see some things that you probably would think of as part of the Bill of Rights. This is before the Bill of Rights. So this is before the Constitution, which Bill of Rights would come after that. But the idea of religious liberty, meaning religious freedom to worship in whatever type of church you would like to, or not to worship at all, that is established in the Northwest Ordinance. Trial by jury, that it's not a judge that makes the decision, it's a jury of a person's peers that makes the decision. That is established here, and again will be part of our life. And that writ of habeas corpus, it's a Latin term. You may have heard the term before if you don't know what it means, though. It's just the idea that a person cannot be held prisoner, detained by the state, the police, without knowing why. So if someone's arrested, They may go to the jail, but usually you'll see the next day, no matter what the crime is, it could have been on camera or whatever, the next day they're brought before a judge. Or the next business day, they're brought before a judge. The judge explains to them what they did. Sometimes, nowadays, even before COVID, you might see them, if you're watching something on the news, you may see where a person was in a jail and by video conference with a judge. But it's just the charges are brought up against them. They're given the right to an attorney if they need a public defender. But that's what habeas corpus is. You can't have the police arrest somebody, throw them in a dungeon somewhere for 4 years without ever having a trial or being told why they're being held captive. So that idea is an earlier idea, but in America it's going to come from the Northwest Ordinance. Slavery is banned. This is 1787. Civil War is not until 1861. So, I mean, we're decades before slavery is going to be outlawed in America, but now, at least in the Northwest Territory, slavery is prohibited. State governments were to be Republican in structure. What that term means is just that we have a representative democracy. We don't have direct democracy, so we elect representatives to make decisions for us, and then you can elect different ones if we don't like the people that are in charge. But everybody in Ohio is going to come and meet to decide every single issue. It's just, it's not really practical, especially nowadays with a bigger population. But that was a setup for our country, and that was a setup for the Northwest Territory. And then the last bullet point, new states would be admitted to the Union, to kind of explain that, which is just more practical to the time. But the second part of that also established the principle of that new states would be equal to the original states. That was significant because you had the original 13 states. Now, as Ohio and Indiana and Illinois, those parts of the Northwest Territory, as they come in, this said that they are equal to the original 13. The new states wouldn't just be like a colony or a lower status state compared to the original. That's significant because you just left being a colony of Great Britain, where the American colonies were less than mainland Great Britain. So to avoid that from happening, this clause was put in there, and then that would extend for all other states, even if they're not in the Northwest Territory. So when Hawaii became a state, they're equal to Ohio or Massachusetts or any other state in the country. All right, the next video will be about the U.S. Constitution.